Majestic.
Wordplay, no longer afraid. Activation of my DNA. My energy is grade A. Stepped into the gateway. On the other side was a payday. Ain't talking about no candy.
It's working. Good. Alright, baby. Welcome back to the next episode. I might need to grab a hair tie because yeah, exactly. Anyways, let's get to it. I'm gonna deal with it. Hopefully it should stay out the way for the most part. We'll see what happens. Disclaimer. Actually, I got two disclaimers for y'all. So, first disclaimer. We're talking about Lucy today, right? It's about to get majestic, real majestic. So, hold up. Alright, I had to wipe the camera. I don't know if you can see me better, but shit, I look good right now, at least in my opinion. And that's all that matters. But let's get to it. First disclaimer. We're watching Lucy. We're breaking down Lucy. We're going to dive into that and dive into the mind, literally, because that's what this movie is pretty much about. And then from there, we're just going to unpack the movie. Second disclaimer. The people behind me, they're getting their house fixed, specifically their siding. So you hear any banging in the background, my apologies. Hopefully this mic don't pick it up. It's supposed to knock out all the excess background noise. That's why I bought it. So we're gonna really put it to test today and see what it actually do. Now, with that being said, let's get majestic, baby. It's about to get majestic. Ooh! Hey, Lucy. Lucy, boy, god dog. Hey, Lucy had me. Lucy re-inspired me. I ain't even gonna hold you. Lucy re-inspired me. How did Lucy re-inspire me? Because they started talking about the brain. And I have this, I don't want to call it a fetish. It's like a satisfaction about the brain for some reason. See, the first time I started becoming interested in studying the brain was when I first watched The Matrix, right? And I ain't gonna say it was the first time I watched it. It was probably like my second or third time that I watched it when I was actually more developed in the mind to be able to understand what they were saying. Because when I first watched it, I was only like, I don't know, 13, 14. I didn't really get what the fuck was saying. Like I watched it, but I didn't get anything that they was talking about. I didn't understand what they was talking about. I was just watching it for movie purposes, right? Couple things happened. I got bored at the location that I was at, and I ended up watching The Matrix because it was on Netflix. I watched it on Netflix, started breaking it down. Then I started really listening to what they was talking about, and they're talking about the impulses, or the electrical impulses, the cerebrum, and all the other different parts of the brain. So then I was like, well, what the hell is all of that? So I started Googling all that, start putting pieces together. Boom, next thing you know, boom, spiritual awakening. And I was like, type shit. But it was a scary one. But it's all good. I ain't even gonna say it was the awakening. It was the initiation. It was the initiation leading up to the awakening, the second one. So Lucy re-inspired me to go deeper into the mind and uncover basically what they talk about. Now, the overall theme of this movie, I would say, is I would say purpose will be the overall theme. Finding your purpose or knowing your purpose. That's it. That's it. I was thinking about unity, but it wasn't really necessarily about unifying. The only thing that was being unified was the energies within her body and in her mind. Because this is more of a, so you know how they got mind, body, soul. This movie is directly targeting the mind. And I don't want to say targeting, but more so revealing the mind's capabilities. So let's just get into it and maybe it'll make more sense to you as we go along and we get further into it. So Lucy, I don't know when it came out. I think 2023 actually. 2023. Appreciate that memory. So, you know, I got the notes. I don't think we got too many notes. Actually, maybe we do. It didn't feel like I took that many notes for this movie. I'm not gonna hold you. I was kind of nervous. I was like, bro, I feel like I'm not seeing the point of the movie. I feel like I'm not seeing it because I didn't really start grabbing downloads until we got towards the end of the movie where all of the, I feel like the end of the movie is where all of the damn information is. Like there's some information spread out. Let's just get into it. Fuck it. You gonna fuck it. Yeah, I mean, we're gonna talk about it. We finna talk about it. Yeah, damn it. Let's get it. Let's get it, baby. All right. So, first thing first, the movie starts out showing a cell. It shows a cell, and then it shows the cell split into two. Those two split into four. Those four split into eight, and so on. So right there you have the Fibonacci sequence. We've talked about this briefly with who was that? Elio, I forgot how you say his name. Elio, one of those. With the Fibonacci sequence, they got the Fibonacci spiral. That's how that becomes. That's how they find those plots. Yeah, 1 plus 1, you know, gives you 2, 2 plus 2, 4, 4 plus 4, 8, 8 plus 8, 16, 16 plus 16. What's that, like 32? I don't even know if that's right. I've never done math that fast in my head past 10. So y'all check me on that. I don't know if it's 32 or not, but you get what I'm saying, right? There's going to be 32 plus 32, whatever that is. And then whatever that is, plus the same number itself. Yes, exactly. So this is what's opening up in the beginning of the movie, and it's showing you the splitting of cells, right? Take you back to biology in high school, maybe even middle school, where y'all talk about, hey, hey man, I'm like doing a whole video right now. Do you mind? Please. Thank you. Have a seat somewhere. Take a nap. I'll get right with you. My bad. That was Baby Panther. So, like we were saying, take you back to high school biology or even middle school biology. I think we talked about it briefly in middle school. I don't know what they teach in school now, if they even teach, but basically, remember that time where you had to talk about the cells. We're talking about plant cells and animal cells. This is basically kind of some of that information correlates in here a little bit, right? So, and it's more so not even what you learned about it, just the parts of the cell, like the nucleus, the mitochondria, this, and that, the labels of it. Because they use some of those terminology. They talk about the nucleus, they talk about the cell splitting. I want to even say the cell splitting and shit, isn't that called like mitosis or meiosis? It's one of them oses. One of the Osis twins. One of the Osis twins. It's one of them though. I gotta check and double check my facts on that. But that's how we starting the movie off. It starts off with that. That's the first thing you see is a cell. The next thing, the first line said is, what have we done with life? We were given the gift of life a billion years ago. What have we done with life? And they show basically it goes from this chimpanzee. I'm gonna just say a monkey, baby ape. Look, it's all the same shit. I've been saying that a lot. It's all the same shit. Okay, baby chimp, monkey, whatever you want to call it, baby ape. It's all the same shit. And it's got this ape. I'm gonna just interchange the names. They got a baby ape basically drinking water out of a river, creek, pond, not a pond, but a river or a creek. And it goes from showing this baby ape drinking water out to the city. It like transfers to the city. So she asks, what have we done with life? So this is when we first see Lucy. So Lucy is talking to Richard, who was her boyfriend at the time. And Richard's in some shit that he's not telling her about. He's not telling her the whole truth. He's not even telling her shit part of the truth. He's just being very avoidant of what exactly is going on with this briefcase that he's trying to get her to deliver to this guy. I don't remember the dude's name. He's like a kingpin drug lord though. And I think he's Korean. I was thinking they was Japanese the whole time, but I think she said in the movie they were Korean, or they were speaking Korean. And if they're speaking Korean, then that must mean they're Korean. But we'll get to that too. So yeah, hold up. All right. So Lucy tries to set her boundaries with Richard, and he ignores the boundary. Basically, still trying to reword and rephrase her to basically just go take the briefcase inside. He does it all the time. He just needs her to do it this one time. She won't go for it. She's setting the boundary. So it shows after she set the boundary and he starts trying to like sweet talk her, he tries to sell her to the idea of it. Right. And when I say sell her to the idea of it, I mean like persuade. It's just no way of saying persuade. Not necessarily selling her specifically to the idea. But when this happens, after she sets that boundary, we are shown a white mouse with the cheese on the cheese trap. And see, the first time I watched this, that shit just blew over my head. I was like, well, what the hell is this white mouse for, right? But remember, white mouses are what? Those are laboratory rats. Those are experiments, right? And before I started recording this, like literally about 10 minutes since we've been on here, 11 minutes. So about 15 minutes ago, I was literally thinking, right, life is just an experience. It's just a big ass experiment. You know what I'm saying? It's just one big ass experiment, and you are both the researcher, the experimenter, and the scientist all in one. It just depends on the lens that you're looking at it from, and how quick or often are you shifting that lens. Kind of like a not a telescope, a microscope. How they got 3 different lenses, for each one zooms in more and more and more. The less zoomed in you are, the more of the observer you are, right? That's going to be the scientist, or not even that, the researcher. You know, the middle one that zooms in, I think it's times. Don't quote me on this shit. I think the furthest one away is like times 0.5, something like that. Then you've got the middle one. It's like, I think it's red or blue. It's like times 25 on the microscope. And then that would symbolize your scientist role. And then you've got the biggest one, the longest one, and that's, I don't know how big that is. We'll just say times 100 just for the example, right? And that's going to represent you being in the experiment and experimenting with the experiment, right? Because you are the scientist and the researcher all at once. I hope that makes sense to you. So they show this white mouse with the cheese on the mouse trap, and this symbolizes her intuition. So when I watched it the second time, I understood it. So it symbolizes her intuition telling her that it's a trap, right? Because you got the white mouse and you got the cheese on the trap. Mouse takes a trap. You get, like, you see what I'm saying? Like, it's gonna trap the motherfucking mouse if you try to eat the cheese, right? In this case, the briefcase, her delivering the briefcase is the cheese on the trap, and she's the mouse. Ironically, she's white. You know what I'm saying? While Richard is trying to persuade her to fall for this trap, basically. So that's her intuition telling her. And this happens all the time, not with me, but with everyone who is aware, who allows herself to be aware of it. When people talk to you, when you get some type of information, no matter what it is, you always have a visualization of something in your head, whatever it is, whether you can figure it out, what it is, or picture it. If you could, let's say, if you could picture it, you can see it. And if you can see it, that's your answer. The thing is, you have to decipher these pictures. They're not just plain. I mean, they're plain, they simple, but some of it requires you to take some thought. You know what I'm saying? Even me, sometimes I got to repeat whatever it is that I seen in my head over and over and over until I realize the simplicity of it, so that I can be like, oh shit, that's what this means. Okay, I got it. I understand it. Right. But see, she wasn't in tune with her intuition. So she wasn't aware that she was being warned by her own intuition, by her own mind, telling her that it's a trap. don't do it. So he ends up handcuffing the briefcase to her wrist, and she has to basically walks into the building. When she walks into the building, they show us another visualization of cheetahs in like a savannah, and they're just walking around, and then you see some gazelles. So when I first seen this, I thought she was representative of the cheetah, right? Because she walked in the building, she had on a cheetah print. So I was like, okay, she wearing a cheetah print. That must be her, right? The cheetahs must represent her. And then get to the front desk, she asked for the guy's name. I forgot the dude's name. I think it was Chin or Chung, something like that. And basically, they say wait for him to get to the front office or the front lobby. As they basically get to the front lobby, they take her. As they take her, they shoot Richard at the same time. So when they shoot Richard at the same time and they grab her, it goes back to the visualization of the gazelles and the cheetahs. And the cheetahs are basically attacking. They're attacking the gazelles now. And then it ends. The visualization ends with basically the cheetah walking with the gazelle in his mouth, like the gazelle's neck in his mouth. And that's basically a representation of them having her. She's the gazelle. She's the gazelle, and Richard was the other gazelle, because there was two gazelles and there was like 3 cheetahs. So they take her upstairs to this room. She sees the leg of 2 dead bodies and a whole bunch of just like not necessarily blood, but blood splatter, like blood drops on all over their legs or whatever, and she basically throws up. You know what I'm saying? Because you ain't never seen some shit like that. You know what I'm saying? So so you got that going on. So after she sees the 2 dead bodies and she throws up, the throwing up represents her purging. She's getting rid of everything she just seen. And she's getting rid of everything that she has previously learned. Because of the 2 dead bodies, we got the 2 dead bodies representing death, right? This is the death. This is the end of her innocence. This is the end of her ignorance as well. She doesn't know this. This is her initiation. So you take it back and remind you of Elio. Elio's initiation was when he tripped into that little room, right? Tripped into that room. They had the big message playing on the gold disc, on the gold record player. And it was like, what if there's more to the world? Blah, blah, blah. And then he starts growing up and going down his path of the journey until he reaches that awakening point, right? This is Lucy's initiation. The same thing with me, right? When I watched The Matrix and first understood it and truly understood it, that was just initiation. It wasn't the awakening, it was the initiation. I didn't have the awakening until, when was that? That was like March. So April, May, June, July, August. So 5 months later when I had the actual awakening. So this is her initiation. Right? So they get to the thing, he brings her to the front, not the front desk, but to a desk in the room that they're in now. And the kingpin dude, Chung or Chin, however you say his name, like I said, he basically calls a translator, translate the conversation between him and her, because he's speaking Korean and she's speaking English. And obviously she's going through a lot of shit. She's hysterical. She's traumatized because she's seeing a lot of shit she's never seen in her life before. And again, this is all changing her. So he writes down the codes of the numbers. He asks what's in the briefcase. She says she doesn't know because he wouldn't tell her. Richard, when we say Richard didn't tell her. All he said was to bring the case to you. So he says, all right. He grabs himself. I didn't mean to say he grabs himself, but he takes himself outside the door, and all of his little, I guess, bodyguards or security, whatever you want to call them, all bring out these riot shields. They basically brought out riot shields, and they stood in front, and he stood outside of the door to the right side of the door. So before we go any further, this man that she's talking to right now, this kingpin dude, this is a representation of her wounded masculine energy. We don't get much stories or information about her father at all. So this is an indication, or is left up to the audience to assume that she has no dad. Actually, I lied. They talked about the dad briefly. Apparently, he was at the gym. So, but she still has this wounded masculine energy within herself that is being projected through him. And he's extremely ruthless. So, because he's a kingpin. So this is how this goes, right? So she opens the case. The briefcase code is 140. And this is important because this is the first time that we'll see the numerology of 5. What is numerology? Numerology is basically you add up numbers. The numbers 1 through 9 are the only real numbers. 0 does not have any value to it. So when you say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, that's the end. After that, all you're doing is repeating the same numbers and adding additional numbers to it. So when you get to 10, now it breaks down to 1 plus 0, which is what? Obviously 1. 2, you go to 12, 1 plus 2 is 3. 13, 1 plus 3 is 4. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You get, and it continues over and over and over. 1 through 9 are the only real numbers in numerology. 0 has no value. So with the passcode for the briefcase to be 140, you've got 1 plus 4 plus 0 equals 5. 5 is the number of change. 5 is the number of change. 5 is the number of growth. That's about it. Like when you see a 5, 9 times out of 10 is a big ass change on the way, right? That's why if you ever seen angel numbers and you see 555, they always say, oh, it's a major change on the way. That's just because the original 5 has been amplified. It's been amplified 3 times, right? So y'all know the power of 3, 6, and a 9, you know, to where that basically emphasizes that 5, not once, but fucking 3 times in a row. So it's amplified change. Change isn't bad, nor is it good. It's just change. So we see this 5. She opens the briefcase. He asks what's in it. The Korean kingpin asks what's in it. She says it's just blue or purple powder. Both of these colors are significant because they're both high frequencies on the chakra. Would you say chart? I'm not sure if you would say chart. We're just gonna say chart for now, right? They're both high frequencies on the chakra chart, but also on the I do not know what it's called. It's a frequency chart, but it describes your emotion, what you're feeling, and basically there's color. It's color coded. I'm gonna put it in here. It'll be like right there. You'll see it. But the blue and the purple are both higher frequencies and emotions compared to the other colors. So this is important because it's a high frequency color. These are high frequency colors that she's describing. And you also got to think, right? You also got to think about basically what do they use for UV lights? UV lights are what? Ultraviolet. So it's purple, violet, because you got to use that to help you see the unseen, right? So let me see. How can I put this in perspective? I feel like I just put it into perspective for you. No, I didn't. I really didn't. So, okay. Think about it like this. The higher a vibration, the higher the frequency of something is, the less you can see of it, right? So you can see me right now because I'm vibrating at a slower rate compared to the AC that's blowing. Just because I'm vibrating at a slower rate, it doesn't mean you're a low frequency person or that it has a low frequency. It's just vibrating slower. So because it's vibrating slower, it allows you to see it. The wall is vibrating slower. So that's the only reason you can see it. The LED lights, they're vibrating slower. That's the only reason you can see them. The metals behind me, those are all vibrating slower. That's why you can still see it. You can't see gas unless it's hot. Cold. Technically, yeah, you can't see it unless it's hot. If it's cold outside type shit, right? You don't see the fumes coming from an exhaust pipe from a car until it's cold outside. You see what I'm saying? The same thing with when you boil water and the steam comes up. Does it make sense now? Okay, cool. Now I'm glad that you understand that part. Now, what we're talking about is the UV light bringing what you can't see with the naked eye to the naked eye. So what I'm saying is when you're writing with, say like you write shit in an invisible ink, or we'll just say white ink or something like that, you can't see what you're writing. You can feel it and you can see where the letters or numbers or whatever it is that you draw would be at as you're drawing it. But if you take a break 5 minutes and then you come back to that drawing or writing or whatever, you're not going to know where you wrote the last thing at. You can estimate it. You can have an inference of where you're writing it at, but you may not be exactly spot on unless you mark it with something physical that you can see, right? So until you rub that UV light, which is of a higher frequency, like the sun rays, then you'll be able to see where you stopped at. So this is why the blue and the purple plays an important role in just the colors. We're just talking about colors, but how the colors connect to the entire play of the movie as well. They get like this homeless man. I don't want to call him an addict because I feel like they forced him to take drugs. I don't know if he was an addict before they like caught him and started using him to basically take drugs, but they basically make him take test the drug, and I don't want to say he has takes a deep breath. He takes a deep breath though, and he just freezes, and then when he exhales, he just kind of starts laughing. So it's kind of almost like your first time smoking marijuana. At least that's how it was for me. The first time I smoked it, I was laughing my ass off. I had this funny feeling in my stomach, and it kept pulsating from my stomach throughout my body. So it's like this, like, okay, so you got my stomach, right? There would be like this ball of feeling, like this weird feeling in a circle, and it would just like a heartbeat. Each time it pumped, it will pump, and it will send them like tickling or them funny ass sensations through my entire body each time that it pulsated, and I would just be laughing. He basically did that, so he was just laughing for like 30 seconds straight, and then it killed him because he was laughing. Just fucked up, but it's all good. I mean, it's not good, but like, you know what I'm saying, it's all gravy at the end of the day. So from there, the scene transfers to Professor. I don't know what his whole name is. I just remember them always calling him the Professor. This is Morgan Freeman, though. The Professor is played by Morgan Freeman. So they switched to the Professor, and he's talking about how one neuron means you're alive, and two neurons mean you have movement. And with movement, you can do a lot of things. There's a lot of things that can happen. He starts talking about how the humans only use 10% of the cerebral zones in the brain. But the dolphins use 20% of the brain, and because they have a higher use of their cerebral zones, they have naturally created their own. I don't even want to say created, but they naturally use their sonar radar because it doesn't need to be man-made. They don't have to make anything outside of themselves because they're using everything that they have inside of themselves. Basically, because I studied dolphins for a small period of time, dolphins and whales, like I decided to change my diet to align with their diet in order to increase the omega fatty acids that I was intaking and all the other acids and all the other minerals, not the other acids, all the other minerals that were included that were in a diet of a whale and a dolphin, killer whales, orcas specifically, right? Orcas and the dolphins, because I had the thought that they were some of the smartest motherfuckers on the planet, right? Outside of the elephant. So I was like, what did they eat? Like, they eat fish, but what else do they eat? That was it. It's only fish. And then fish has a lot of omega fatty acids, which is supposed to help promote the brain health. So I was like, okay, bet. I'm going to just start eating hella fish. And then elephants, they always eat nuts and walnuts. So I was like, okay, I'll eat nuts and walnuts too. And I add that to the diet. I'm going to eat this for however long, and I should be able to start thinking like them. Right? That's how I seen it. Where did you get this idea from, Majestic? I'm about to fucking tell you. Damn it. Sit still. All right. So, how did I come up with this idea? I came up with this idea because I started tapping in with other animalistic energies. Not my own animalistic energy, right? Because we all have our own animalistic energy, which is the instinct, our natural instincts to do shit. When we're in survival mode, is very prominent then compared to when you're moving through love. So, as I started playing with other energies outside of my energies and learning and exploring, I realized from being, I think I was in leopard energy for about a good 4 or 5 months. I was in back and forth between, we'll just say, all cat energies. I was in between all cat energies. So I was switching from panther to the cougar to the mountain lion to the leopard to the jaguar and so on, back and forth. What I realized was I started picking up on not only the way that they move through the forest and what energy I could use to help me climb a tree based on the area that I was in, but I also started peeping that I was starting to eat a lot more meat than I normally do, right? I started realizing that when you take on these energies for such a long period of time, you start taking on their diets, you start taking on their habits, you start taking on everything that they do. This helps. This is how I did it in order to learn more about the cats without just throwing myself out there into the cats. You know what I'm saying? So instead of going to them, I brought their energy to me. This is part of being a multidimensional being. You use this and do this when you understand that you are everything and everything is you. When you have that clear understanding, it lets you and allows you to tap in to whatever it is that you want to tap into as long as you are ready. If you're not ready, your energy is not going to let you tap into it. So with that being said, I've harnessed that energy and realized I started taking on a very, very big meat diet, and I never ate so much meat before, even before even when I was a kid, I never really cared much for chicken or steak, none of that shit. I didn't care too much for it. I was more of a Thanksgiving boy. I had a plate full of sides on my soul. I did. I had a plate full of sides. I didn't give a damn about the ham, the turkey, none of that. I didn't care about none of that shit. I wanted the mac and cheese. I wanted the baked beans, motherfucking green beans, because you had to have something green to help you out. You know what I'm saying? You can't be just eating all this other shit that's gonna have you stopped up. You gotta get something that's gonna help clear you out. So I had to get the green beans, the dirty rice, the clean rice. You know what I'm saying? I had to wait for the peach cobbler. I didn't care about sweet potato pie. What else was there? The dressing and shit. You know what I'm saying? You get the picture, right? I always had a plate full of. If you seen ham on my plate, I probably had the smallest piece. You know, when your kid, like if you got a kid or any kid really, you're like, you gotta get some meat. You gotta be like, I don't want no meat. They like, so you cut it up just a little bit, like little bitty pieces. That's how my ham was, nigga. I used to tear that bitch up into small pieces because I ain't even want that shit. I just got it. So motherfuckers wouldn't be like, you ain't got no meat on your plate. I'm like, who gives a fuck? Mind your business. You know what I'm saying? So hey, real shit. So understanding that and understanding my past and understanding how I reflected on my past and how I also was very aware of my diet and aware of my own body, I realized I was picking up these diets. So hence that's why I was like, I'm gonna switch my diet, because at that point when I had that idea, I was like, well, I've learned that I can just adapt another animal's diet if I really wanted to be able to tap into the abilities that they have within their own selves, which is just another version of me, which is also just another version of you. If you understand. But you do. That's why you're on this page. So, going back to the movie, talks about the dolphin, and they're using 20% of the cerebral cortex. Not the cortex, but the cerebral capacity. 20% of the cerebral capacity. Dolphins are water animals. And so we have yet another example of water, how it carries information, the intellect of water. Water is conscious. Water brings information, water sends information, water heals, water kills, water grows, water does all this shit. Water is a very powerful element. So not only do you have a smart ass animal, but you have a smart ass animal that lives in one of the smartest fucking elements there is on the planet as well. I say on the planet, even though it's like 4 of them, 5 elements, depending on how you see it. So you go from there, and you've got so his next question is, the professor asks, are humans more concerned with having than being? It's not answered, but it can be inferred. We can kind of just look around the world today and see more humans are more concerned with having than being. Not all, but some. I feel like more than some. Mm-hmm. I'll even admit there'll be times I'm more concerned with having than being, and then I have to realize to be. And when I start being again, everything starts flowing again. See what I'm saying? So Lucy wakes up because she got punched, and then they switched the scene to Professor. Switched it from Professor back to Lucy. She wakes up. She's got a cut in her stomach. She's got the what's that thing called? It's like the little white tape that go around your stomach to like help you with bleeding. They give it to all like the trauma patients and shit. I won't say it's called gauze or something like that, but that's wrapped around her stomach. She gets up. They bring her into this room, and this is where you meet like this white guy. I don't even think he ever said his name. But you meet this white guy, and he basically introduced her to her scripted job. Why do I say scripted job? Because this is the job that she's going to do. This is the job she's going to have so long as she allows them to basically be in control of her. So how can you put that into perspective, Majestic? Let me help you. When you choose to make your own path, instead of following what someone else previously did by you or before you, when you choose to live your own life and not the life that someone else tells you to, does that make sense? Does that sound familiar? Okay, that's what that is. When I say a scripted job. So the Korean kingpin gives Lucy a shot in a diamond glass while the white guy is talking to the other 3 people who also got cut in the stomach, and they all got filled. They all put bags of the CPH4. That's the name of the drug. This is when we introduced the name of the drug. They put the CPH4 into all of their stomachs to basically hide it. So the other 3 are also males, by the way. So while he's talking to them, the Korean kingpin gives her a shot, and on the shot glass there's diamonds all throughout, like it's cut diamond shape for like the design of the glass. This is symbolic. Now you have to bear with me because I don't remember off the top of my head what the diamonds symbolize. So we're gonna look it up right here in real time. So you know, be like, oh, how does he know this off the top of my head? Because I'm gonna tell you straight up, I don't know everything off the top of my head. Now, most of the shit that I know off the top of my head is because I've actually studied it or dealt with it or experimented with it in some way, shape, or form. So I don't want y'all talking about, oh, he know everything. Oh no, hell no, I don't know everything. Fuck you mean? I don't know everything, baby. Alright, hold up. This thing at. Alright, sacred geometry of a diamond. Meaning. And also be aware too, just because a shape is 2D, 2-dimensional, or that doesn't mean that it's not sacred geometry. That's the beginning of it. Those are the beginning stages of it. You can't have sacred geometry without the 2-dimensional shit. You add sacred geometry is just you adding shit. more and more and more and more and more to it to make it more dimensional. So, sacred geometry of a diamond or a rhombus is basically related to balance, perfection, and the spiritual journey. Interesting. It can represent the balance between yin and yang energy. This is very interesting. The pursuit of higher understanding, the connection between the macroism and microism. The shapes, points can symbolize purity, intellectual knowledge, and clarity. With the overall structure, can represent a journey towards enlightenment. That's funny as fuck. It's really funny considering the path that this movie takes after that shot. Both the shot from that scene, but the shot from the drink as well. So, with that being said, right? With that being said, they it shifts back to Professor. He's still giving his presentation. To this part, I'm not 100% sure if he was giving his presentation to like a class, like if it was like a university that he was teaching and talking to, or if this was like some type of what you call that shit, like I don't even know what it's hold on, wait a minute, not the university, but like a proposal, not even really a proposal, but in a sense, yeah, a proposal, and I'm gonna just use that word for now because I can't think of whatever. A conference, that's what I was trying to find. One of those three. That's the one thing I couldn't really understand if it was a university conference or a proposal. Either way, it don't matter. It served its purpose, right? And he says, he basically explains that if the habitat isn't a nurturing cell, if the habitat isn't nurturing or satisfying, the cell chooses immortality, which is self-sufficiency and self-management. If the habitat is favorable, they'll choose to reproduce. This makes sense in a real world perspective because you gotta think about this. How many kids, and we don't even have to say kids, how many, we can really even talk about adults. Let's talk about adults who still act like kids. And not in the healthy way, but more of the throwing temper tantrums and shit and whining and bitching about when they don't get their way. We're gonna talk about those type of adults, quote unquote. See, what they are doing is they're reliving parts of their childhood for when they experienced whatever it is that they experienced in their childhood that gave them whatever type of trauma that is, be it emotional or mental trauma, right? I don't think people give enough credit to mental trauma or emotional trauma just because you can't see it as much as people give credit to physical trauma. So when it says that if the habitat is not nurturing, the cell chooses immortality, which is self-sufficiency and self-management. This correlates to that. If you got a child that's in a shitty environment where it's constant arguing, it's constant bickering, it's constant violence, it's constant drug abuse, it's so many things that a kid can see and absorb and then become that, especially within the first 7 years of life, right? And even then, you can take it further than that. If information is passed on, right? If knowledge is passed on as the professor is hypothesizing, that only means the trauma that was already there was trauma in that environment already, right? That baby was already in its mother's womb. So that is not like that trauma started before baby got there, because whatever the mom dealt with on her emotional level, on her mental level, traumatically, even if mental, emotional, physical or sexual trauma, all of that's getting passed down to the baby. And then if you got fights that are still going on, be it physical or verbal, domestic shit, domestic violence and shit, all of that is still playing a role onto the baby as well. All of that's being passed on to the baby. So the baby's already absorbing some of this information and trauma before it even gets the chance to be on the earth. It's already being formulated. It's already being, I don't want to say infected, but in a sense, it's being infected. But see, the same thing at the same time, it works both ways. If you in a loving, safe environment, what happens? You reproduce, you make more. Right? That loving environment, that safe environment. Picture a kid, I don't want to say compare, but picture a kid that came from a family who the mom has healed her trauma, mentally, emotional, physical, whichever trauma she got, she's healed it. She's handled it. She's broke those cycles. She broke those curses, the generational curses. And her mindset and her way of thinking that was really not even her way of thinking to begin with. It was something she adopted from either her mom or her dad or whoever that was raising her, that she was always surrounding herself with as she grew up. Now that she's adopted her own way of thinking and she has a more peaceful mind state and a more loving mind state, not a survival mind state, then she chooses to get pregnant. Now that's being passed down to that child. Now that child does actually have a complete chance without having to worry about absorbing trauma. Not to say that that child's not going to go through shit that they have to learn on their own, because that's their own path. They got to figure that shit out on their own. Not to say that they're alone, but they do have to figure it out. That's part of their life. It's part of their journey. It's part of their growth. Vice versa. You got the opposite, one who hasn't worked on their mindset, one who hasn't worked on their traumas, one who's afraid to probably even admit their traumas or don't even know that they have trauma, or they don't see it as trauma. They're so deep into their survival mind state that it's passed on to the baby, and to that baby grows up in the same way, and the baby starts growing up thinking the same way as the fucking mom and the environment that they've been around their entire childhood, until or unless that baby gets to break free. But see, the only way that that child can break free is if that child goes searching for knowledge himself or herself until someone brings it to her. Otherwise, it'll seem normal. It'll seem completely normal until someone outside of that little circle that they always see consistently says that's not right. Because now that's going to plant a seed. Just like in Sonic 3, right? When Tails, what the hell was that dude's name? I forgot the other dude's name. The Robotnik's assistant. When he asked about Tails being Sonic's assistant, and Sonic was like, Tails was like, that's not my assistant. I'm not his assistant. We're all a team. We all have a role to play, and we're best friends. That completely shook up Robotnik's assistant's perception, because he never experienced that. It's the same thing. This is the same thing. If they experiencing the same shit over and over and over, that shit becomes normal to them. One of the beautiful things about the mind is it adapts. Humans adapt, which is crazy, because it adapts to both good situations and bad situations. But either way, they become adapt, and this shit becomes normal to them. You could be just like people are in the hood, and they experience gun violence, and they experience drug violence, and they experience all this other shit, rape and sex, all this shit with the police. They are raised in literally fear survival state. They're literally raised in a fucking concrete jungle. And so when you allow them, when they come out into the world after they've experienced this at such a young age, now you've got even more animalistic behavior, because that's what they've came up out of. And they don't surround themselves with other people outside of that, because who the fuck wants to talk to them? Everybody's afraid of them. Everybody judges them, right? So the moment that one person comes in and says, hey, that's not right, blah, 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 you have planted the seed. She may not fuck with what you're saying at the same time, but you've planted the seed, and that seed is eventually going to start watering and growing on its own. You see what I'm saying? So to the point to where they finally start to break free. And then when people start trying to break free, they old frequency tries to follow with them. And they're like, what you doing that for? Why you reading for? Why you trying to expand your knowledge? Make you look stupid, right? Make you feel crazy. You start questioning yourself, but that's part of the journey too. You got to realize you got to stand 10 toes down and continue with the journey and leave behind what's got to be behind. Everybody can't come with you because you raising your frequency. Just like it's that gap. Somebody was talking about it the other day on Instagram. I forgot the dude's name. I think it was Snoop Dogg, actually. Might have been Snoop Dogg. Where you guys talking about you got a gap here, you got a gap here. As you keep rising and they choose not to rise, they choose not to grow, then you got a gap. What you going to do? You going to go back down with them or you going to continue rising? Either way, you got to do something. You got to make a choice. Wow. It's crazy how we get to go back to the power of choice. Anyways, with that being said, that's what I processed when he said if the habitat is nurturing, the cell chooses self-sufficiency and self-management. If it's favorable, they choose to reproduce, which makes me kind of think about teen moms, right? Because everybody sees them from this negative perspective, like, oh, you go 16, why you go mom, blah 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 blah. But if this is the case, they reproduce at such a young age because they felt like they was in a favorable environment, like they felt like it was in a safe environment, a nurturing environment. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. But hey, you tell me something I don't know. You know what I'm saying? You tell me something I don't know. So knowledge and learning is passed down or handed down through time. And Lucy is basically, it goes back to Lucy. They're in this van. They put the little black thing to cover her face after they took them out that room with the other three people who had got cut and put the bags in their stomachs. She's in this van, basically giving herself self-talk to keep herself calm while they're driving to this. I don't know what to call it. I guess I'm gonna just say like a holding place. And then so one of the first dudes that sees her when she gets to the holding place, he basically tries to start touching her sexually, and she rejects him. And when she rejects him, he gets mad. He punches her in the face. She falls to the ground. He starts kicking her stomach. He kicks her stomach like 6-7 times. What this does is this pain, right? This pain activates her awakening. So it's kind of symbolic in the real world sense, right? You had to go through pain to be able to have that awakening. But once you have that awakening, then it's kind of like, it's not smooth sail, but you know how to handle shit when shit starts to get rough, if that makes sense. So let's say like for me, that self-initiation that I had when I started breaking down the brain and actually paying attention to what the Matrix was saying and then going and doing my own researching and putting it into play and perspective for myself. At the same time, I was in the middle of having relationship issues with the person that was supposed to be my wife. So what do you call that? Not a fiance. Technically, we was already married. So we'll say that. So with the person that I had married that was supposed to be my wife, but she wasn't ready for a wife. I wasn't ready to be a husband. I ain't gonna hold you. I don't think that's right. I feel like I was pretty ready. I feel like I was more prepared. Obviously, there's more shit I could have did and knew about, but I didn't. So neither one of us was really ready. I was just following signs that I had seen, intuitive signs, not like fucking road signs type shit. So during this whole time, I'm going through depression while I'm learning about the brain. I was being depressed. I was fighting suicide. I ain't gonna do. I was suicidal a little bit. And loneliness because I was in a completely different country. The people that I knew were all just basically my ex-wife's family. So that didn't really help me. I needed to like find a place to be on my own or find new friends, which I eventually started making a couple of friends that we don't talk. I don't talk to anybody from that country anymore except for like 2 people. But other than that, the only person I was really actually cool with was her dad, but like, and her cousin. So, but her dad was the one who truly understood what I was like going through. I don't know how, but he was understanding it, and that made me feel like I was hurt. Like her dad was the one who made me not feel like I was going crazy. Kind of like, in a sense, he grounded me. He grounded me, right? This is when I started talking to trees. This is when I started actually connecting more to the earth, more like grounding, like actually sitting on roots. I sat and meditated in front of a damn crocodile, not once, but motherfucking twice. The first time we met each other, when me and the crocodile, it's a female because she had babies. I seen them running through the forest or the jungle, really. I seen them running through the jungle, right? But I only seen the back of their tail. So because I only seen the back of their tail, I couldn't really make out what it was. All I seen was the pattern of the tail, and it looked like a reptilian tail. So it could have been, at which point it could have been a snake, it could have been a fucking iguana, it could have been a fucking some other type of lizard. I forgot the name of it. Or it could have been the caimans, right? That's what they call them down there. They call them the caimans, right? But I seen the pattern. The pattern of the tail was light gray, dark gray, light gray, dark gray, and you got the rough scales on the side. So I knew it was some type of reptile. I just didn't know exactly what it was. And then fast forward 2-3 days later, right? We just had an argument with my ex-wife, went outside, did a run, did a little jog, came back, went to the little pond where the little caiman was supposedly at. They said there was something back there. I told them I didn't believe. I ain't tell them shit. I was just like, okay, but I didn't believe them because I ain't never see shit, right? I wasn't seeing shit. And then got there, I got to the top of this. I walked to the other side of this like little. So it's like a pond. It's like, I'm finna show you. Okay, so it's like this, right? This is the pond. All of this right here that you see, that's the pond. The perimeter is like the walkway, right? And there's like a hill on the other side, but I have to come from this side and walk around to get to it, or I can walk up this way and then cut across because there's like a little roadway, like a homemade road that they made to do that, to connect the other sides of the place. So I'm doing that. I'm walking on the other side of the thing because there's a tree. It's a big ass, tall ass tree that I see. It's got vines on it. I'm like, I want to try to climb that shit. I did like 4 or 5 attempts, didn't work. I was like, fuck it, this shit way too high anyways. Let's just take a break. Turn around. I see what looks like a big ass leaf in the lake, in the water. It's not a lake, it's a pond. And so I'm like, cool, it's just a leaf. I get down, I walk back around so I can go back to the crib. As I walk back around, I see the black eyeballs, and this is the first time we make eye contact. And we make eye contact, the fucking chills that went down my body, the butterflies that came into my stomach, and the heart rate that my fucking heart went to, boy. I was like, hold on, let me calm down. Let me calm down. As long as I stay calm, she gonna stay calm. I'm like, I ain't got nothing against you. I ain't got nothing against you, my boy. Look, if anything, you need to get your kids and you need to get the fuck up out of here because they talking about trying to kill you and eat you. So you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to put you on game. I'm like, hey, get up out of here. Go find some more water to climb in and rest in. Like, this ain't the place for you, my boy. Like, they're gonna get you. They're trying to get you, girl. So I'm trying to put the crocodile on game, but at the same time, I'm trying to stay cool. Right, because the crocodile don't know me. This is the first time we met each other, right? So she don't know who I am. I don't know who she is. We ain't never talked. We ain't never met. You know what I'm saying? Her first instinct is kill. My first instinct is run. Like, there's a lot of shit popping off at once, right? Couple weeks later, come outside. She's outside, completely outside outside the pond. So this is the first time I see her complete length. See, the first time we met and encountered, I could only see her head because she was in the water. So she was like just sitting on top of the water. You know how crocodiles do, right? Or alligators, whatever you want to choose to call it. So this is the first time when I first meditated, I sat in the trees, I sat in the woods or the jungle. So I seen her, she seen me, but we had some distance. We had at least like 60, 70 feet in between us. But I could see how big she was. She was at least 25 feet. She had some length to her, boy, on my soul. And that tail, she had some size to it. She had 3 of them. There's 3 of them. They was probably about 5, anywhere between 5 and 10 feet. Her kids, her little offspring, right? We meditated, tapped in. Tell me why we tapped in. And I had a dream about her that night. And that following night, she gave me like some type of clarity. I looked up what the hell an alligator mean, right? And it helped you tap in with your psychic abilities. It helped you tap in with, I think it was like clairvoyance. Help you, and it take you into the unseen world. It's basically, it's like the animal symbolizes like a bridge between the spiritual realm and the physical world. Mind you, we met by what? The element of water and on the earth element. So, right, if you're in the earth element, you're grounding these things into reality. When you ground it into reality, it allows it to be actually manifest into the physical, whereas the water is a faster moving element than the earth element. So we first met in the water element, where she met me while she was in the water element. So, underwater brings you information. For her to bring me those dreams a week later after we had met in the water element to bring clarity and fluidity, you see what I'm saying? That is then when I was like, shit, tapping in with the alligator. See, back then I still didn't know, and I was still depressed. Like, it happened, it was cool, but at the same time I was still depressed. I was still feeling lonely. I was still feeling what was the other one? Unheard, something else. There was a different word I used. But you can fucking get the picture, right? Only until I came back home, back to the USA, and I don't like how I just said that, the USA. Back when I came back to the US, right? When I came back to the US, I started going really deep into my spiritual journey, right? This is when I first started healing I first started healing with the feminine energy, because from what I understood, she was the one that was really fucking up a lot of shit because I wasn't giving her any attention. So I started healing her. Went on to that journey. We're now in June. Yeah, we're in June. So I went on to that journey of healing her, went to the journey of healing my inner child, right? And then the day before my birthday, before my how old did I turn? I don't even know how old I turned. I think it was like 22, 23. One of them damn numbers. It don't even really matter because age ain't real, and it's not even really my birthday. So that day came, right? This anniversary came of me being on this planet, and then I had the understanding. I had the awakening. I realized everything that happened between me and her, and all the shit that played out with her, all the shit that played out with the females I dated before her. It was all basically a lesson. And I realized she was just them. She was just all the exes that I dated in a different body. And the whole entire lesson was for me to learn how to love myself. Thus, me going deeper into that journey and realizing I didn't or never needed a female to begin with to give myself the love that I was seeking. Right? Which it sounds beautiful at the end, right? Because it is, but you have to understand all the pain that it was gone through to get to that, to activate that. So again, she's getting kicked in the stomach and getting basically beat on in order for her activation to kick in with the C4, the CPH4. And this is when it's distributed through her entire body. So she starts having something similar. It's like kind of like a seizure, but I don't think it's exactly a seizure, because she's still able to like somewhat control some of her locomotor movements. That boy said locomotive, but oh my soul. She's still able to control some of her locomotive movements, and so that's why I don't think it's completely a seizure. I want to say, if anything, her body is like a mix of her body being in a seizure and shock at the same time, but she's still conscious. So after that, all of that settles in, this gives her access to 20% of her cerebrium capacity. And from there, right, they said in the movie, once you hit 20% capacity, from there the brain just starts unlocking and removing all obstacles, which we'll get further into. I hope I wrote that down. I should have. If I didn't, I'll explain it later. So after that happens, it goes back to the professor and his presentation with the group of people that's in the auditorium with him. And he says it's up to us to push rules and the laws to go from evolution to revolution. And that ties back into that scripted role when I was saying she was given the scripted job to be the deliverer of the drugs, but she chose not to. She chose to go against that. And shit, my bad. We didn't get to that part. Fuck. Well, hold on. Fuck it, my fault. I mean, well, shit, you done seen the movie. You done seen the movie already. That's why you're watching this shit. But so, um, but yeah, so that's how we go from evolution to revolution. She chose not to follow the script, and instead she chose to take her power back by going against the script and choosing her own path. So, which goes to push the rules and the laws to be able to do that, right? Then he says there's more connections in the human body than there are stars in the galaxies. I'm not 100% how accurate this is. I'm not sure if they just threw this in there for like Hollywood purposes and the script of the movie, or if that's actually true. If it is true, I find it kind of hard to believe that it's true because you are the universe. You are the multiverse as well. So if there's more connections in the body than there are stars, it just doesn't necessarily make sense to me, because if that's the case, then we're more connected to the source than we think, right? And we're not necessarily from all these outsourced planets and ideas that we have in our head. It puts us in a different perspective. That's the only reason why I'm not sure if it's like more connections in the human body than there are stars, because you got to think, there's how many stars have been discovered, how many stars haven't been discovered, and they're probably still talking about only the Milky Way when there's multiple galaxies. You see what I'm saying? But the issue is we don't know how to get to the different galaxies other than the use of the mind. But that's all you need. You know what I'm saying? That's all you need. So he continues into his presentation. He says control of the body, or control of the once the cerebrum, he starts hypothesizing, once the cerebral capacity reaches about 40%, you will be able to have capacity to control other people, not in a manipulative or narcissistic way, but in an actual physical way. And she demonstrates this later on in the movie. Someone asks, what happens if someone unlocks their brain to 100% capacity? He admits he does not know. And it goes back to Lucy. Lucy's become relaxed after her body's basically absorbed the CPH4. So she's like chilling now. She's sitting on the chair. There's another guy that comes in and basically tries to have sex with her, and she uses seduction to get him to let his guard down. So she basically beats him, kills the other guards that are outside of the door. She digs a bullet out her arm. Like, well, you can say that's her arm. Digs a bullet out her arm, and then she eats, and from there she's activated. And this symbolizes, in a sense, you could say her awakening. I feel like it's more of a activation though. At this point, she has shifted her energy from the soft loving energy to her warrior energy, her internal warrior energy. So she's on the way to the hospital. She's noticing she can hear other people's conversations while she's in the car, just by looking at people, just by focusing her attention on people. We have to remember, attention is currency. Where you shift your attention to is where the energy goes. So that is a very real thing. Where you look at, say I'm giving attention to the camera right now, all my attention is going here. So you're seeing everything and you're understanding everything I'm saying. You're understanding the vibration that I'm on, right? I'm staring at the wall. My attention is now going to the wall. So now we are in a sense, even though this wall isn't talking to me, we are making a connection. We are exchanging energy. That's all that is. So she gets to the hospital, and the screen has, I think it's radiology and neurology, but it's written in Korean, but her mind translates it automatically for her, so she knows where to go. She ends up going to the neurology surgical room, where she reads a brain scan and she kills the patient. It's not funny, but she kills a patient that they're working on, and like it scares them, and she basically like tells them like the tumor spread to the right side of the cortex. He was going to die anyways. So she asked the lead surgeon to dig the bag out of her because it's spilling, it's leaking. And so he starts to do that. She calls her feminine energy, which is her mom. And while she's doing that, they start the surgery. She doesn't want anesthesia. What she does, at least the way that I understood it or portrayed it or perceived it, my fault. In order to avoid the pain, she shifted her attention from him cutting her open and pulling out the bag to her mom, the conversation with her mom. And she tells her mom she feels everything. She feels space. She feels the air, the time, vibration, gravity, people's emotions, the rotation of the earth. She just feels everything. And she could feel the deepest parts of her memory. So this is symbolic of when she has basically started feeling not only her energy, but she's feeling the energy of other people and pretty much everything around her, including the vibrations. In a short term and more simple way, we could say she has become more sensitive now that she has opened and unlocked certain parts of her brain that a lot of humans haven't reached yet. She compares the pain of her surgery to the braces, the first thing she starts talking about. And then she remembers everything from her childhood, even from when she was being like an infant. Like she remembers being breastfed. And there was something in her cat. They had like a Siamese cat. And she was like 1 year old. Her mom was like, you shouldn't even be able to remember that. But she remembers it, right? Because she's accessed that part of her brain. So at the end of the procedure, they pull out the bag. She asks how much is there. He says probably about 500 grams. This is your second time seeing the 5, right? Because 5 plus 0 is 5, right? Numerology, 0 is not a real number, only 1 through 9. This is when she's first actually introduced to CPH4, and she gets the actual rundown of what CPH4 is and what it does, and the possibility of why it was made. So the surgeon tells her it's naturally produced by pregnant women, but in small doses is what helps the fetus develop. So now she starts kind of understanding that. He also says he heard rumors that they were trying to make a synthetic form, but he didn't know that they actually successfully did it already. So she leaves the hospital. She walks outside and she can see the energy of the tree flowing all the way from the leaves, from the tip top of the tree, all the way down to its roots. She goes back from the hospital to a kingpin dealer, so back to the hotel, and he's getting a tattoo. And as he's getting a tattoo, the artist has a tattoo of a skull on her back. But it's like a Bruja skull. Is that what it's called? Hold on, let me Google it. Bruja skull, or like maybe even the Catholic skull. Um, Maybe it's a skeleton. Hold up. Talk to me, baby. No? Okay, well, how about the Catholic? Okay, so it's like something like the Catholics. It's something similar to this. I'm gonna show y'all. It's like a mix. Let me see if you can see that. You see that? You see that? Focus. There you go. Thank you. Okay, so it's like a mix between that and I'm tripping. Cause y'all done seen the movie, right? Even if you haven't, just in case you haven't, and you just watching this shit for fun. If this focus, there you go. So it's like a mix between these two. Now it's not the exact version of it. Like it's not like the praying hands like that. It's not like that, but it's a mix and it's kind of similar to those tattoos. And to me, I don't know what that means, but I know skulls most of the time represent some type of death. So, um, so the tattoo artist gets up And Lucy gets in, or sits down, and then she basically stabs both of the Kingpin's hands, like straight through his hands, and sums up exactly what's happened to her from the beginning of the movie into that current moment. And this, again, happens after her awakening. Remember, I told you it's a process. It may be a little bit of a painful process. You have to experience the pain in order to have that awakening. So she says, learning is a painful process. Sounds or music that she can understand now. Like, we're not just talking about musical sounds, we're talking about sounds of the birds, sounds of a tree, sounds of cars, just anything in the environment is now music to her. And she admits she used to be concerned with what she was and who she wanted to be, and realized that human beings are primitive and that they're all obstacles. Now, that part took me a little second to digest, and I don't think I completely understand it still. I feel like, for the most part, I can say I understand the back half of that statement when she says they're all obstacles, because humans create their own. We create our own illusions, we create our own obstacles, and we limit ourselves based off of our beliefs, based off of our beliefs, based off of what we've been taught, based off of thinking that we're always right, thinking that we're, or not even thinking that we're perfect, but trying to be perfect, when in fact we should do the opposite. We should always question ourselves, even if we think we're right. Strive to be imperfect. When you strive to be imperfect, that's what actually starts making you perfect. It sounds crazy, it's backwards, but it's only backwards because the world is backwards. You feel me? It sounds crazy, but yeah. So she says, kind of like the pain you're experiencing, talking to the Korean kingpin. She's like, kind of like the pain you're currently experiencing. That's all you know is pain. And so when she says this is actually when I realized she's talking to her wounded masculine energy, who only knows pain. So it's a symbolic of his ruthlessness that he put onto other people by cutting not only her stomach, but he cut 3 other people's stomachs open. You know, you got the 2 dead bodies that he was, I don't know if he was chopping them up or cutting them up. I don't know what the fuck he was doing, but he had on goggles, and the goggles had blood on it. So he was doing some type of cutting, right? You've got where he was basically made like almost 25 people sacrifice their life because he was afraid to open the briefcase, right? He's living in fear because he's fucked over so many people, or he's killed so many people. He's got so much dirt behind him. So he's just ruthless. You know what I'm saying? So she's talking to her wounded energy projected outside of her, which ends up just being him in the masculine form. So she uses her thumbs and puts it on his cerebral, on both sides of his cerebral, and retracts his memory to all the other places that the other 3 people went when the thing was Paris, Rome, and Berlin. And this is basically just symbolic of energy transference. This also happened in Elio when the little pink extraterrestrial put her little suction cups on Elio's brain to find where Gordon was at. When I forgot what the main guy's character name, Gordon's dad, when he realized that it wasn't really Gordon or Glorden, it was a clone. It's kind of similar to that through a humanistic perception. So from there, Lucy goes to her friends. She hugs her friend, and when she hugs her friend, she sees her friend's entire nervous system. She reads all the research on the human brain that the professor had uploaded and has published, but she reads it all within like 30 minutes, maybe even less, honestly. Once her brain reaches 20%, the rest of the brain or the rest falls, and there's no more obstacles. She's talking about the illusions when she says this to the professor. She ends up calling the professor when she's done, and basically starts telling him what she's experiencing, and that pretty much his hypothesis and theories are correct. and basically how, the obstacles, there are no obstacles. She has no fear or anything because those are all illusions. She's colonizing her own brain. She controls basically the basic electromagnetic waves, so simple magnetic waves like the TV, the phone, the radio, which is why she was able to force herself, I ain't gonna say force herself, but allow herself to appear on his TV to talk to him as if it was a webcam, or on his phone, his BlackBerry, I think that's what it was, the clock, radio, and his tablet. um, she says she doesn't feel any fear and she doesn't feel pain, nor does she feel a desire. Everything that makes you feel human is fading away, and the less human she feels, the more knowledge she receives about everything, and it just explodes within her. So to me, this almost sounds like you basically got to sacrifice being a human, living like a human, in order to receive and learn things on a deeper level. And I can see how this will make sense only because there's a period of time in my life where I went through strict isolation from everything and everyone, where the only thing I was doing was I was probably in the forest more than I was anywhere else, even at work. Um, and I wasn't really hanging out with nobody. I was cutting everything off. Social media, I was using to a very limited state. It was just more so about me diving into the journey, like I said, diving into myself and discovering more about myself. So during this time period, it was like I shut off. I didn't really shut off feelings, but I didn't have anything that would make me feel for anything. I was letting go of attachments that I used to have, whether it be to people, to habits, to um, beliefs, all of that, to be able to access this other piece of myself to see what I would find, right? So I can understand what she's actually saying when she says she's got to remove. It's like the less human she feels, the more knowledge she reveals or that she gains access to. Um, and then that also made me think about basically, I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's a song by Janae Aiko where she says, I think it's called Jukai. I don't know. I'm gonna spell it for you. It's Jukai. On my soul. Yes, it is. Where she says, "You don't get to die until you get it right. I envy the dead." For some reason, it made me think about that. Um, because they're trying to figure out what to do. We'll come back to that. You know what I'm saying? They're trying to figure out what to do. That's why she calls him. She's calling him to ask what should she do, right? Which is kind of funny because she has access to all this information, yet she still doesn't know really what to do with all the information. She just has it. So the professor says the purpose of life is to pass on what we've learned, just like any cell that goes through time. So, with that being said, she she gets ready to leave her friend. She prints out a prescription for her friend and tells her her livers are failing and she needs to make lifestyle changes, eat organically, and she should be okay. She goes to the airport. Her face is on the news from when she shot at the hospital. So she literally genetically changes her hair color to black. She straightens it. She makes it longer, and she gives herself bangs. And it's like it's not a wig. It's just like it's her hair. She just manipulated it, right? Because she's got access to do that anyways with her energy, or her mind being at 40% cerebral capacity. So she calls the Paris policeman. I don't remember. I don't know his name. I know his name actually. I just don't know how to pronounce it. But she calls him the lead chief or a captain technically. I know he's a captain, and she reads the energy through the phone that he's afraid or something, or he's trying to see if there's cameras because she tells him to sit down. She calls him out by his name, tells him to sit down, grab the pen, the red pen specifically to the left of you, and get a piece of paper that's on your desk and start writing what I'm about to tell you. So then, because her vision, her visual is so accurate, he starts looking around his office for cameras, and she says there's no cameras. just do what I ask and hurry up, right? So because she starts understanding more, she's now becoming more into that revolution mode that the professor was talking about. She's fighting back by taking back her power from the other three people who had, not necessarily from the other three people, but by going to get the CPH4 from the other three people to shut down that drug operation that the Korean kingpin was trying to get going, basically. So this is how she takes her power back. She's programming computers and shit on the flight, and when she's done, the sunlight hits her, and for a little bit, the sunlight has like this side of her face is in the sun, the other side is in the shadows, and then the sun just kind of reveals her entire face after she looks at the sun. So this is more like her accessing her light even more. She's accessing her light even more, and it's almost like balancing, finding the balance between her shadow self and her light self, right? Because the beginning, it was more about her confronting her shadow self, which she's done, right? But now she's coming into the light because she's no longer afraid of her shadow, because she realized the power she has within her own mind. Similar to Shadow, right? On Sonic, once he balanced his shadow with the light, he was no longer, I don't want to say afraid, he was no longer angry. He was no longer chaotic. He started turning his chaos into a positive thing towards the end of the Sonic movie. Um, hold on. Where we at? So she asked for some champagne, and when she asked for champagne, the movie shows a flashback of when the professor first said, if the habitat is not sufficient or favorable, or nurturing, then the cells will choose immortality. So basically, what's happening is, remember when I said she became more sensitive? But when she became more sensitive, and she drunk the champagne, her body began to, it looked like it was almost like self-destructing. And she coughed, she was coughing. So, you know, how people be like, oh, you coughing up a lung because you're coughing so much. She literally coughed out her teeth. So she coughed out like 4 teeth. And this, the way I seen it is more like, because she has so much access to her brain and the way that her brain was moving, mind you, she's only ate one time through this whole movie. She's only ate one time. She's moving off of pure CPH4, but also she's moving off of air. I forgot what the name is, but it's basically like a diet where all you do is to eat and to drink. You inhale the air. I forgot what the term is, but it's an actual diet. A lot of monks do it where they only eat the air and that's it. And that's what their diet is. So because she's been moving off of this so long, she's on this such like a very high frequency diet. When she tries to intake alcohol, which lowers the vibrations and is poisonous to her body, especially now that she's become more sensitive to things that are no longer belonging in her body, this triggers that reaction of self-destruct. So in order to basically regain herself and awareness and to rebalance out her body, she had to consume another large amount of CPH4, as the alcohol was basically damaging her energy because she became more sensitive. So, damn, we about at an hour. We got an hour 30. Where we at on here? More sensitive. Oh yeah. All right. I'm gonna break this up into 2 pieces. Let me see. Hold up. All right, I'm gonna break this up into 2 pieces because we got We got a pretty good amount of notes still left. And if I try to force it all into one video, I'm not so much tripping about the video being 2 hours, 3 hours. It wouldn't be no 3 hours, but like 2 hours and 2.5 hours is more so about me having to be able to consume storage on my phone until I can figure out a way to get more storage on it. So as long as I leave it about 1.5 hours, I should be good to go. I'll upload this one, break this up, and then I'll get the second one uploaded or recorded and uploaded in due time. In due time, baby. So until then, I'm gonna see y'all the next, I guess, on part 2, and from there we'll close out Lucy. Start the next movie. Again, if you want to comment whatever movie you want me to break down, let me know in the comments. You can follow me on social media, Instagram, TikTok, and it's about to get majestic. No A, just it's about to get majestic. I'll link it in the description. I want to say that's it. Stream some songs, man, on my soul. I've been dropping some songs. I just finally overcame this somebody copyright infringed. They filed a copyright infringement claim on my last album. And so my last album's been out of the digital store since about May. So I finally got to basically overcome that and had that re-established in the stores. So I'll link that as well to my music, which is basically us talking about the same thing that we're talking about on the podcast, just in a more rhythmic form. Also, it's a little bit more personal because I'm talking about some personal experiences as well. You know what I'm saying? So if you like reflecting, or if you like more high vibrational music, or something that's just gonna force you to grow, I ain't gonna say force you to grow, but it inspire you to grow, or just inspiration in general, I link that down there to Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Music. These are not the only platforms that my music is on. It's on all platforms of Pandora, iHeartRadio, Deezer, and all the other ones. I just don't know those. I haven't logged into those. Even Amazon, it's even on Amazon Music. And boy, you heard that? You heard my voice crack? It's crazy. It's even on Amazon Music. But like I said, I'll just type those last 3. I'll type those 3 in. If you don't use those 3 platforms, you can just look it up. Majestic Move is my artist name, and just see what pops up. Other than that, y'all be safe. Y'all hold it down. I'm gonna see y'all in the next Majestic video, baby. Let's get to it, alright? Peace and love.
Burma boots, big shoes, all wins, don't lose, just choose. And watch the magic light up your fuse. Trust in yourself, boy, I give you cahoots. Plant my feet, let me ground my roots. Oh, excuse my apologies, I need to express gratitude.